from Bumblebee Scholars. Let's take a look at homeschooling in Oregon. Congratulations on having the courage and determination in creating an individualized, home-based education for your child. Homeschooling is a wonderful option for educating your kids. While it may not be the norm, that's okay. Here is an overview of what we will cover in this video. Literacy and math data in Oregon and Portland Public Schools. Observing what schools are really like. You decide. A very brief look at homeschooling numbers in the U.S. and Oregon. Requirements for homeschooling in Oregon. The day-to-day of home-based learning. And we also include some learning resources in the Portland area and online. There are links in the description so you can jump to any section of this video. We often assume schools are superior to homeschool. Yet, if we take a closer look, you find that most children in the United States are behind in reading and math. Basic reading and writing and math is a bare minimum that we want from the billions of dollars spent on our educational system. To find evidence of this, all you need to do is take a look at the data for the schools in your neighborhood and in your state. Here is a very quick glance from Oregon in general and the Portland School District. The best data available from the Oregon Department of Education is school year 2018-2019, since the data is incomplete for 2019, 2020, and 2020-2021 school years due to the pandemic. For this quick glance, we will take a look at grade 3 for meeting English language arts grade level expectations, as this shows literacy progress from ages 5 through 8 approximately, and we'll look at grade 8 for math, showing math progress from about ages 5 to 13, and this gives us a very, very general idea of cumulative learning. In Oregon, when we look at literacy, so English language arts, Oregon, 47% were meeting grade level expectations, and in the Portland School District, 56% were meeting expectations. And then when we look at math, we'll see that in Oregon, 39% of 8th graders were meeting grade level expectations, and in Portland School District, 48% were meeting expectations. Educational data is a big, cumbersome conversation with many variables to consider. And honestly, if you're considering homeschooling, you are definitely an outlier. Essentially, students in public schools are sitting in a crowded classroom, sometimes with over 36 students most of the day. They are let out to go to the cafeteria for lunch and a very short recess or two. They typically have library, PE, maybe a very basic music class that they leave the classroom for. To evaluate a school, we typically look at test scores. Yet honestly, the bottom line is that schools do not feel safe and often aren't, and they don't nurture learning. Often quite the opposite. It's okay to have subjective reasons to homeschool. And if you're able to take the time to work with your child and have basic resources, do it. If you are on the fence about shifting to a home-based approach to your child's education, you could consider being a fly on the wall, seeing what schools are really like. One option is to become a substitute teacher, as this is an ideal way to go to many schools in several districts to see what schools are really like. While there has been a big conversation for years about the problems of the mainstream approach to education, it is really still the best answer for most families. The brilliant architect, systems theorist, writer, inventor, philosopher, and futurist Buckminster Fuller said, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." Here is a very brief look at homeschooling in the United States and in Oregon. So in the United States, homeschooling is legal in all 50 states. Each state has their own rules that people must follow. We will be covering Oregon's rules shortly. It appears that Alaska has the most homeschoolers and is a great state to compare other requirements to, because at this time Alaska has no requirements. They don't have any notification or parent qualification requirements. Also, there is no reporting on instruction time or bookkeeping required or assessments required. In the U.S., there are currently about 49.5 million K through 12 students. Prior to the pandemic, around 3.4% of the total K through 12 school age population was being homeschooled in the United States. This was about 2.5 million students homeschooled in 2019. The homeschool population has been consistently increasing every year. With the pandemic, the amount of homeschoolers grew dramatically from 2019 to 2020 and from 2020 to 2021. By autumn 2020, the number had more than doubled to 9%. It'll be interesting to see how this may change as we move forward from these school closures. Home-based education is part of the school choice movement. This may be interesting for you to read up on and is a larger topic for another video. Here are some statistics on homeschooling in Oregon. Across Oregon, students registered as homeschooled went up 73% from the school years 2019 to 2020 to the 2020-2021 school years. And of course, this was directly correlated to the pandemic. In 2019-2020, there were a total of about 583,000 K through 12 students, with 18,000 of these being homeschoolers. And in 2020-2021, there was fewer students, with approximately 561,000 K through 12 students in Oregon, and of those, about 31,000 were homeschooled. Something to consider when looking at numbers on homeschooling. Homeschooling sits outside of the public system. This makes data collection challenging. Districts are not required to track or report on families who homeschool. With that said, they're still able to gather quite a bit of info so that we can get a big picture of homeschooling in Oregon. Homeschooling requirements in Oregon. In Oregon, as in all states in the USA, homeschooling is a legal educational option. This was not always the case, as prior to 1983, homeschooling was considered a crime. Each state has different requirements for their homeschooling families. These range from no requirements at all to having to submit your lesson plans for approval from the local district. Here's what you need to know to homeschool here in Oregon. Notification requirements. So the major requirement here in Oregon is Oregon requires you to notify your local ESD Education Service District. Now, since there are compulsory school attendance laws, by notifying your local Education Service District, ESD, your child won't be considered truant and is officially on a list of homeschoolers. The notification requirement is a way to protect your family from the truancy laws. When are you required to notify the ESD? So you notify your local education service district for students ages 6 to 18 years old, and you do this within 10 days of beginning to homeschool, moving to a new education service district, or withdrawing from school. If your child turns 6 after September 1st, you're not required to enroll that child in school or comply with the homeschool laws until the beginning of the next school year. One thing to keep in mind, if your homeschooler ends up attending public or private school after you have registered as a homeschooler and then you decide to go back to home-based learning, you would have to notify your local ESD again and report them as homeschooled. Testing requirements in Oregon. While Oregon does not have any curriculum requirements or learning standards homeschoolers must follow, there are testing requirements. Homeschooled children must be tested before the end of grades 3, 5, 8, and 10. The end of the grade is defined as before August 15, following the end of that school year. How do you determine what grade a child is in? The rule presumes that a parent's notification of their intent to homeschool a child at age 6 will begin with kindergarten. So testing requirements will be based on that presumption, unless otherwise notified by the parent. So what do you do with these tests once your student has taken them? The state statute says to submit test results to your local ESD when requested. So they have given this over to the ESDs. Some ESDs may not request the actual test results. They may some years, but not all. However, you must make sure to have these on file and available if they are requested. Also, the info from these tests can be helpful. It is an objective look for you at your child's learning. While testing is controversial, no fun, and many students fear it, it really is a superpower that will help students significantly in the future. I know, as a homeschool parent, training my daughters to be comfortable and confident with school tests has made things much easier for them as adults. I want to note we will have another video diving deeper into the homeschool testing process. There is a lot more to talk about here. What does it take to homeschool? The day-to-day of homeschooling does not look the same for every family, nor does it look like a stereotypical classroom with students in desks with the teacher up front. A wonderful thing with homeschooling is there is no required structure and you get to create your own curriculum. And the challenging thing is there is no required structure and you get to create your own curriculum. When educating your child, you walk the line between introducing essential skills and information while following your students' interests. Not to mention the daily household chores that must be accomplished. There is not one particular philosophy or approach that is best. If you make your approach to homeschool unique to your student and your family, it will be amazing. Please keep in mind that you want to keep it simple and personally manageable. There's a vast amount of curriculum options out there, and it can get expensive and complex and take up a lot of time. We will assume you are paying for your school resources and activities and you need to be careful with your budget. Public schools receive over $12,000 a year per student. You as a homeschool family are currently on your own in Oregon, even though a majority of property taxes go towards education. In a future video, we will talk about some interesting options that Oregon has in efforts to move towards greater school choice. To begin planning your curriculum, remember you are focusing on working a bit on English, language arts, and math each day. You add to that elements of social studies and science a couple days a week. Then you will make sure to include some form of exercise. To that, you can add other types of activities that are of particular interest to your family: music, martial arts, coding, acrobatics, language, etc. Well, some people are anti-workbook. We see them as a great way to get the foundational work needed. And there's no need to reinvent the wheel, and like I said, to spend a ton of money. Workbooks needn't be the full content of your school. But by spending a bit of time each day on a workbook, it allows for consistent learning that provides an exceptional foundation to develop the skills needed to be able to do more creative projects and explorations. Here is an example weekly schedule. It is for a second grade level student. It is planned using the following checklist. So ELA daily, math daily, reading daily, incorporating exercise, getting outside most days, science, social studies 2 times a week, and then some fun extras. This is just an example of what your homeschool schedule could look like. And if you look at this, notice how it fits the checklist. There is a ton of flexibility here, and this is just one approach. So you'll see this schedule includes English language, arts, math, and reading daily. In general, students should focus in on reading very often. You can read with them, they can read with other students in a homeschool group, and they can read to self. So daily reading can be quiet time for the student to read a book. Some students live for this quiet reading time, where others not so much, and this is okay. Either way, just design a schedule that works for your student. Here are some workbooks we recommend for ELA and math. We like them for their practicality and simple focus on basic skills and knowledge. And from this super practical foundation, then you can build other activities onto it. So Spectrum ELA for second grade covers grammar, punctuation, parts of speech, proofreading, and writing practice. And McGraw-Hill's math workbooks focuses in on fractions, addition and subtraction with 2 and 3-digit numbers, 3D shapes, and measurement. Now remember, these are examples for a second grade student. So any details mentioned are work recommended for that grade level. However, you can see how this can easily be adapted to any student in any grade. Next on the list is Time to Explore Nature. This works as both science and exercise. Students can hike outside and work on their nature journal. Hiking can be a fun time to just be a kid. By adding nature journaling, you are adding another layer of relevant learning. The book Exploring Nature, Journal for Kids, Observe and Record the Outdoors is a great book to help guide elementary students with that. Students learn to hone their observational skills while exploring the world around them. We also have included a science-focused day, working in a science workbook. The Evan Moore science workbook is a nice option. Although it's designed for Monday through Friday daily use, it can be utilized any way that works best. This provides a consistent path towards scientific literacy. And for grade 2, it focuses in a bit on life cycles, genetics, and geology. Okay, so we have covered ELA, math, reading, some exercise and science, now for social studies, and then fun additional subjects we've included are news, ELA, language and music theory, that includes recorder practice. And then to this we've also added acrobatics, an adventure day, and fun YouTube, which I'll go into just briefly. News ELA is a wonderful, mostly free resource. It is a news story-based platform that aims to help students improve their literacy skills with real-world content. Each article can be adapted for several different reading levels. A reminder, social studies includes history, geography, economics, civics, and political science. So by doing News ELA, you are able to work on social studies, and your student is developing skills and gaining so much more than that. When it comes to learning a new language, there are so many resources now. Duolingo is a fun, free language app. While it is an app for all ages, mostly adults, it's appropriate for children, and by working with it a small amount each day, students have a wonderful way to build their language skills. Another language app that's designed specifically for children is a dinosaur-based app called Dinolingo. It does not have a free option and is subscription-based. It's a very fun program that assesses language learning progress and has a lot more options and learning opportunities. Dinolingo and Duolingo include probably over 50 languages. There's a lot of options. For language practice, we also have videos and writing. So for this, you can maybe use a YouTube channel. Children language channels can include singing and stories. And for writing practice, you can use a language workbook. Now for music theory, there are some excellent books. And we will be uploading a music theory and recorder class overview in the next, hopefully, few weeks, if not months. Music is exceptional for learners' brains and best if started early. It literally develops a more flexible, integrated brain, meaning a greater ability to explore knowledge and possibilities, creating a less limited mind, less prone to tunnel vision and limited thinking. All right. The last things on this schedule that we haven't covered are fun YouTube, acrobatics, and adventure day. So, fun YouTube. Not all screen time is bad. There's many examples of different programs for learning, for reading books online, and YouTube. There are so many wonderful aspects of technology when it comes to learning and exploring our world. One is an email that is sent out weekly called The Kid Should See This, TKSST. Their goal is to help educators and families discover smart videos by creators around the globe. TKSST says they serve up STEAM, history, and culture-focused content from museums, organizations, artists, creators, and educators around the web. And this is definitely a very interesting and fun way to explore lots of different things. Yes, acrobatics is possible for your homeschool student, at least here in Portland. There is this wonderful place in the Hawthorne district called the Echo Theater. They offer classes specifically for homeschoolers. Their approach is a lot of fun and low pressure. Plus, pricing is very reasonable. Adventure Day is up to your student and you. Have your student think of interesting things they would like to check out in your area. Anything from going on a picnic, at the zoo to visiting a business to learn more about it, even exploring local architecture, whatever it is your student finds interesting. Remember, this is an example of what a homeschool schedule can look like and a basic planning process. It is by no means what it should look like. That is entirely up to you and your student. Resources. In this video, we have covered quite a lot of information about homeschooling in Oregon. And we have mentioned many useful resources. You will find links to all these resources mentioned in the description below and at bumblebeescholars.com. Please remember to subscribe for more home-based educational content, information, thoughts, and ideas for homeschooled families. And be sure to press the like button to help our channel grow.